Welcome to this short video on modifying and copying loads in Tekla Structural Designer. Make sure to watch our video on gravity loading to learn more about applying loads. In this simple model, the second floor plan has several dead loads already defined. These include panel loads such as point, line, and patch loads, as well as some member loads. TSD allows you to easily modify loads once they've been created. To delete a load, simply click on the load and press delete on your keyboard. You can also use the delete command in the quick access toolbar or in the edit ribbon. To modify a load value, click on the load, then edit the corresponding information in the properties window. You can change the location by typing in a new X and Y coordinate as appropriate. Note that these coordinates are offset from the reference point you used to create the load, not from a global 00 location. To move this load to the right by 3 feet, we can increase the X offset to 48 feet. Loads can be copied by using the Copy Loads command in the Edit ribbon. Within this command, there are several options for copying loads. Select the appropriate option in the Properties box. The yellow pane at the top of the screen will prompt you on what steps to take as you work through the command. To better visualize the loads, change to a 3D view of this floor plan. The first option is Copying Span Loading. This will copy all member loads on a given beam span. You can copy loads from a particular load case or from all load cases. For example, this beam has a partial uniform load and 2-point loads as dead loads. In the live load case, there's a variable load on the beam. If all load cases is selected, all the loads from both the dead and live cases will be copied. Click on the beam you want to copy the loads from. Then click on the beams that you want to copy the loads to. They don't have to be the same length. The location of the member loads are referenced from the same end you used to initially create the load. So here in the dead load case, you can see that the point loads and partial loads were copied, and if we switch to the live load case, you can see that variable load was also copied. Now select only to copy loads in the current load case. The current load case is the one selected in the loading toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Notice the yellow prompt bar still says Apply Loading onto Spans. Therefore, I'm still applying the partial load and 2-point loads from the initial beam I selected. To select a new beam, simply right-click on the mouse. Now the yellow prompt indicates to select Loaded Element Span. You can now select a new member and copy those loads. Notice if I switch to the live load case, no loads were copied in that case. The next option is to copy member or area loads. This allows you to select a single member load instead of all of the loads on the span like the previous command. So in this case, if you only want to copy the point load from this beam to other beams, you'd use the member loads option. Using the same process, select the individual load, the point load in this case, then click on the beams that you want to copy to. You can do the same for the area loads on individual slab and panel areas. These areas do not need to be the same size. Click on the area load that you want to copy, then click on the other slab areas that you want to copy the load to. The next option is the plane loads. This allows you to copy panel loads. These are line loads, point loads, and patch loads that are directly applied to slabs. When a load is selected, the reference point is highlighted by the red dot. When you copy this load, you will click on a new reference point. The load will be the same distance from the new point as the distance to the existing one. You can also select multiple loads by clicking on each load. All selected loads will now be copied. You can see a preview of the loads before you actually click on the model to make sure that you're copying to where you want them to go. Click on a load again to deselect it. That way you can copy several different loads without ever leaving this command. I can click now on the point loads and line load to deselect them, and now click on the polygon patch load to select it. I can now copy the load by clicking on a new reference point. To change the reference point of the new load, right-click on the mouse. Notice the prompt now asks for a new reference point. You can now choose the original reference point of this patch load, which is different from the point and line loads that were previously selected. If you do select multiple loads with different reference points, you'll be able to choose which reference point to draw the new loads from. Right-click to get this option. Notice the orange nodes indicating the available reference points. Click on the point in the model to assign that point. Now click on a new snap point to copy the loads. The last option is to copy loads to a different load case. This can be especially useful if you have loads from above that you haven't modeled actual members for, or the point or line loads that have the same load in multiple cases. Select all the loads from this case that you want to copy. Now, next to Copy Loads To, choose the new load case. You can choose from all the different load types for this option, panel loads and member loads. Once all loads have been selected and the new load case has been defined, click in the graphical space, then click Enter to complete. Press Escape twice on your keyboard to exit the command. Switch to the new load case and you'll see that all of the loads have been copied here. You can now modify the load values as needed by selecting the loads and making the changes in the Properties window. That brings us to the end of this short video on modifying and copying loads in Tekla Structural Designer.